mean? Because we're basically doing the same thing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're growing a business, I'm growing a business.
Yeah, man.
It's a lot. So
Well, see, we met, what was it? At this point, probably almost 6-7 years
I was
ago.
about to say probably 6 or 7 years ago. Yeah, it's been awesome, man. It's been a great friendship. We've had so many good memories and things like that together. That's just been, I don't know, it's been cool watching each other kind of grow up in business and also just personally. Like, I mean, here you are, you got 2 kids now. I got my first one on the way. It's
Yeah.
lots of life changes have happened over the last 7 years, and it's I'm excited to see what life looks like over the next 10 years. You know.
Me too, man. And I was like, coming in today, just telling you how pumped I was for this one. This episode in particular is like, we've had almost, it feels like a lifetime of experiences, like whether it's doing business or hunting and fishing,
Yep.
A lot of times mix of both of those things.
Yep.
We're doing everyday life with each other through, just stuff we've been through, and then also just through hunting and fishing and through
just passions that we have
through business. Yeah, man. So it's like we always end up in these conversations. It's like, I don't know. I've always been kind of aligned on that front of things. I don't know. I just think it's cool to connect on multiple levels in that regard.
Yeah, it is.
It's just cool to see what you've been doing. But
I would say that's like, over my career in business, and just in life in general, like I've always tried to, anybody I do business with, I always try to make it more of a friendship than a business relationship, because to me, it's a whole lot easier to say yes to your friends than it is to say yes to somebody that you're just a business partner with,
Right.
And it makes your business life a lot easier when everybody you're talking to every day is your friend, not just your business partner, because if things are so monetary and so monetized, it makes it where it's just like there's no real bond there, you know what I mean? And having those real bonds with people is really big. So, even all the realtors that I have relationships with, I wouldn't say all of them, but 90% of the ones that send me most of my business, I have some type of realistic friendship with that I know if it's business or not, I could call them up and say, hey, I need something, or, whatever it is. And that that would be doable. So
For sure, man. And originally when I got into the business too, it was like people almost shied away from that, and I almost did too in the beginning. It's like, oh, well, you don't want to mix friends and business because like if something goes wrong, then like they'll be all mad and stuff. But it's like, is that really like a good friend anyway? If they're gonna let something like that, get ahead of it, just be there for each other. And like, I think
and the way I think about it is like, because in our business, mine and your business both, stressful things happen, right? Like every day is something new. There's some kind of new event going on that's, somebody's stressed out about their finances or whatever it is. And, you and your business partners are there to help each other, get through that and help each other kind of find navigate the best path through that. And so like what I would say to you saying, oh, it may not be a good idea to mix business and friends. To me, it's a whole lot easier to deal with a stressful relationship or a stressful process with a friend than it is with somebody you're just business partners with,
Absolutely,
so
man.
I think that's
absolutely
a big thing.
Well, that's been a pinnacle of what we've been able to do, man. We've known each other for a long time now, and some people are going to get to know you a little bit through this show. It's not going to even scratch the surface on the things that we've gone through, as far as that goes, just building that friendship. And speaking to exactly what you're talking about, our business, man, especially in the beginning, you guys were a huge help to us. Really just a cornerstone of helping us grow, but also that mindset that you just brought up. Really, God has put people in my life like yourself, that have shown me the way to do business. That I don't know if I would do what I do without the outlook and perspective that I had. I think it was Jace, a friend of mine, was in my wedding.
Yep.
Jace Roper. Talked to him actually yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, dude, he's doing good, building houses.
Man, he's crushing
crazy
it.
stuff. Yeah, man, he's awesome.
He's
so,
like, he went so far with that. Like me and you both used to say, like he's into everything.
Yeah.
He finally found like his focus. So.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, he just got him a Ford Ranger too, man. He's cool. Like, hey, bro, I got good news. He's like, I'm like, what? He's like, I bought me an old truck. I got a Ford Ranger. He's like, you remember that one you had? We actually both had them, I think, at the same time. Now is anyway. unrelated, but we're kind of related. So getting into the business, he was one of the first people that I was like, hey man, who are your guys, like your buddies that I need to know, in this business? And, we met at Panera and, then just, it became way, business went out the door. It was like almost became a given. And it's just like, we've been able to, I've watched you, start to grow your family, just do awesome things like, build a house and grow your business and all of the awesome things that you've done, man. It's, that all scratches the surface, and we'll get into some of it, but, I do want to thank you, man, for having me, here at the Georgia Public Project lair. That I've coined the term. This is super cool, man. Like I said,
this is my hangout. This is where I hang out every single day for hours. So
heck yeah, man.
I got my office and my passion kind of built into one. It's like it's almost you can't really see it, but it's a split between business and personal, and so it's cool because I can. If I ever get stressed out, I can just look over here on the wall and think about all the memories I've had, with all these deer and just buddies like you out in the woods and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, man, none of these are my deer. That's for sure.
Yeah, we've tried. We'll get you there eventually.
We're not giving up, man. This end of the year was tough, but we'll get there. But yeah, man, I appreciate you having me, and it's cool to be here and doing this. So I do want to read a quick intro over you.
Okay.
Just to so people out there can get to know you a little bit. Let me get this where I can see it. Jonah Abraham. He's a passionate and dedicated entrepreneur, owner of Local Lender Mortgage, as well as a Georgia Public Project. Jonah's a husband, a soon-to-be father, and an outdoorsman, and a believer in Christ. Jonah's an innovator and a mover in his business pursuits, continually breaking barriers and reaching new heights in the woods and in the marketplace. Jonah, in the past year, has been able to grow his pursuits and obtain a great work-life balance. He looks forward to raising a kid with his wife and experiencing all the wonderful things that brings, as well as the future of the Georgia Public Project, continuing to share his passion for the outdoors with the world. So that's a lot that you got going on, man. A lot of, when you say work-life balance, I see a lot of personal fun and business fun.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So like over the last, it took me about 3 years to really figure out like how to manage business and, personal, right? Like it is hard because like half the time when I'm sitting at that desk working, I want to be doing something else. You know what I mean? Like there's a million other things, especially when it comes to the fall or the spring or, whenever there's some type of hunting season in or, even in the summertime, I want to be out fly fishing or whatever, but you have to figure out how to balance that in between, okay, here's how much income I need to be able to support that, right? Like how much income do I need to make to be able to make it where when I want to leave my desk any given time, I can get up and go and I'm not going to sacrifice financially because of that. And that's a hard thing to figure out. And it's an ever moving target, right? Like things are always changing. Right now the market's different, things are a little bit slower. So I might have to be at my desk a little bit more than what I'd like to, right? But I'm okay with that because I know if I work my tail off right now and I try to get to that point where I have made enough income through the year that if I need to sacrifice and I don't get a couple deals that come through the door because I'm out doing something I love, I'm okay. It's not gonna hurt me. You know what I mean? And then also just like being able to, growing up, my dad was in the mortgage business, and so it was easy for me to see whenever I thought about stepping into that business that I can be there for my kids whenever I have kids, and I can be around a lot more than what other people get to be for their kids. Like I see so many of my friends.
That was my GoPro that didn't work. Okay. Now working.
All good. All of my friends, or a lot of my friends that work, 9-to-5 jobs or whatever, they're and they have kids. I hear them all the time talking about, I only get to see my kid at night or in the morning or whatever. And so whenever I left the automotive world, which is what I was in before, I knew that I was going to end up in that position. I was going to be the guy that had to work, 60 hours a week to make a living, and I had to be somewhere else away from my house, away from my kids, away from my family to be able to make that living. And so watching my dad growing up, I was able to watch him he was always there, always able to hang out with us, go play ball, go do whatever, go hunting. He was always able to be there for that. And so I wanted to figure out how to mimic that and be able to do the same thing for my kids and my wife. And so that's been really my number one focus from the day that I got into the mortgage business, is trying to build a business where I can have that type of work-life balance and be able to create an income that is long-lasting, and then also be able to create memories and time with my family that is going to outlast any type of income, you know?
Right.
And so that's really like a main focus of mine, and it'll continue being that way probably for the rest of my life.
Right.
So
do you have to put a lot of barriers in place? Like, cause for me, it's like, yeah, the income piece can be fine, but dude, it's like shutting it off sometimes.
It is. Yeah. It's very hard. You know, my wife could probably tell you this, like sometimes my phone rings at 8:00 at night and I have to pick up the call, you know, or sometimes it rings last night somebody called me at, I think 9:30, you know, asking some kind of question about a loan. and I'm okay with that because, you know, I was able to hang out with my wife for like an hour today, just like sit down, talk to her, and, you know, my phone didn't ring once, you know what I mean? And so like I trade off, it's almost like a trade off, right? Like you trade off certain times for other times, and a lot of time you don't really know that it's coming, right? I mean, me and you both, our business is open-ended, so we don't know when you're going to get a call, when you're going to get something that you got to stop and drop everything that you're doing to go do it, you know?
Yeah, you're between someone and a house at any given point.
Yeah, you're between someone and their biggest financial goal at any given point, and it's very emotional for them, and it's very, you know, if you're not there to answer the question when they need it, they'll find someone else. And because there's always somebody out there that's willing to outwork you, you know what I mean? And so, but it's really just finding that balance, and sometimes it is hard to balance. I mean, there's days where I feel like, yeah, I need to put my phone down and stop, you know, playing on my phone and like talk to my wife, you know? And there's days when it's hard to do that, you know what I mean? Because you have so much going on. There's days where, you know, I'll sit down in this office for 9 hours a day, you know, and I'm just plugging away on the computer doing loans. But you just have to find the balance, and it's not hard to do. You can find the balance, but it's also not easy. It takes time. It takes years of, you know, okay, I screwed up that relationship because I didn't answer my phone, or, you know, balancing your marriage, right? Like keeping that phone where it's not the center of your life, you know what I mean? And I'm guilty of that. Like the phone has been the center of my life a lot of times because I have been more entranced in trying to get the business than I was worried about what my wife needed, you know?
Right.
And that's a hard thing to like think about and say, because you don't want that to be how your wife remembers you, you know what I mean?
For sure.
And so, you know, you have to find the balance, and it is hard. So
yeah. Well, I think it's already a huge step in, like a huge win to even realize that.
Yeah.
Because we're in a culture now where it's like, no, that is what you do.
You know? It's the grind culture, you know, like everybody wants to be the big dog, you know what I mean? And like,
it's about me.
Yeah, it's about me, and how much I can post on social media and like all this kind of stuff. And, you know, last year I tried to do a lot of like additional social media content. I got about halfway through the year and I got super burnt out of it. Like I was just like, man, I cannot do this. Like my phone started ringing a lot. You know, when you get to towards the spring and summer months, it gets really busy. My phone was ringing a lot, and like I was already on my phone a ton. And then I was trying to stop every single day and make some type of video content that would take, you know, an hour and a half to sit there and create a video to post. Then you post it, and you know, the natural human thing is the likes is what gives you the drive to keep doing it. And then no one likes it, and you're like, why am I doing this? You know? And so this year, like I kind of changed my mind on that, and I was like, look, I had my best year ever last year, and I don't think a single one of my deals came from those videos that I made. You know what I mean? Not saying that it doesn't help, not saying that it doesn't keep you in front of people and keep you engaged with your audience, you know, but I can't say that it was what drove my business. You know what I mean? I think what drove my business was building friendships over relationships, you know, and that's probably what my focus is going to be this year. I mean, I'm still going to try to stay a little active on social media here and there, but for the most part, I just realized that it takes 10x effort to post on social media consistently. For the results are just not there unless you're just in it for the likes, you know what I mean? It's that dopamine hit of like, oh, someone liked my post or someone commented, you know, and like I think that's what people like about that, you know. But if you can get over that hump and, you know, find what is really growing your business, you know, And a lot of times it's really just you. Like you are growing your business, not your presence on social media, not your, it's your personality that people like, and it's your, the way that you sit and take time and talk to people, and you listen to their situation. That's what people like. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be the most active guy, on social media. So
right.
Yeah.
I like what you said, about it's people that refer you.
Yeah.
There's a million of us, what we do.
Yeah.
And that's definitely rings true when you say that, man. And it takes a lot of pressure off too when you can realize that, because I struggle with the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Like started off making videos. People are like, when are you gonna bring this back? Bring this back. And it's like, that's not me fully to like always do this kind of stuff. Yeah. It's good, put out content, every now and then. But yeah, man, it's like focus on the core thing, which is yourself.
You. Yeah.
So I want to dig into that a little bit, actually. So you talk about the mechanic life, the old blue collar boy of Jonah Abraham. Yeah. How in the world, I want you to take me back when you're a mechanic, man. You turn, from a mechanic to a $40 million loan officer. How in the world did that happen?
So, cars are still a huge passion of mine. Like I love, and I'm forever thankful for that ability to, fix a car that I have. You know what I mean? Like, and I think it comes a little bit naturally because my grandfather owned an auto shop whenever I was growing up, and so I spent a lot of time with him in his shop growing up, and like I spent a lot of time around turning wrenches and that kind of stuff. It was just a thing that I thought was like what I wanted to do for a living. Because coming out of high school, didn't really have any plans, didn't want to go to college, didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I decided, hey, I'm just going to chase that because that's the only thing I know. That's the only thing I like. I had like a passion for that, I guess you could say. And so I chased it, and I ended up going to like tech school for about a year, and then I just hated that part of it because I felt like the people that were teaching us what we're going to be doing for a living had less hands-on experience than me, like someone that grew up around it. So I felt like they didn't really know the business. They didn't really know what they were talking about. They were just reading from a book, And so I told my parents, because they were helping me pay for the school. So I told my parents, I was like, look, this is just a waste of time. Like I don't think this is getting me anywhere. And then I was like, let me just go apply at a couple of different dealerships to try to get in as like a technician somewhere or whatever. So I went and applied at a Honda dealership in Alpharetta, and I got the job. I was just like an oil change technician. I was just like changing people's oil, rotating their tires.
How old were you?
I was 17. No, I was 18. Because I was 17 when I graduated high school. No, I was probably 19. Yeah. Because I had a year between high school and doing that where I worked at a golf course. So,
heck yeah.
But anyway, so I went and applied, got the job. I was just like an oil change tech. And I met a couple guys there that kind of took me under the wing and started showing me the way, started showing me like, hey, if you want to get into the main shop, in the dealership world, there's this separation between the lube guys, the oil change guys that are doing tire rotations, oil changes, that kind of stuff. They have their own little shop, and then you have the main shop guys. And so, obviously the main goal is to get into the main shop because that's where you start making good money, and they increase your hourly rate and all that kind of stuff. So they started giving me some pointers on that. So I started following that and invested into some tools and that kind of stuff, and finally got moved into the main shop as like an A tech, like a C tech, which is like a low end, tech, and started learning cars. In the car world, you either learn a brand, so you learn the Honda cars, or you learn, Chevrolets or Fords or whatever, and you move up that way, or you kind of go work for like an independent shop and you just work on everything, but you never really you never really learn one specific brand really well. And so I really enjoyed working on Hondas. They were good, simple cars. They didn't have very many issues. And there was lots of Hondas on the road. You know what I mean? Like people were driving them like crazy. So it was a good brand to get into. So I kind of moved forward with that. Started working my way up in the ranks as far as trying to get more pay is what it boils down to. You're trying to increase your hourly rate. So usually every year, they kind of review you to see what how your workload looks like, how much are you able to take on. A big thing in the industry is comebacks, and comebacks means if you work on a car and it comes back with an issue, that's a problem. Like, you don't want to be doing that as a technician. So they kind of review that. How many comebacks did you have? How many issues were you able to solve? They keep track of all that. And there's also classes that you got to go take in the corporate side to like learn the brand more, learn all their systems and stuff. So I worked my way up there, got into the main shop in that dealership, and then a new dealership closer to home opened up, and so I went into that dealership. The guy that had kind of put me under his wing was going over there, so he was able to get me in with them. So I worked my way up, and eventually worked my way up to a master tech with Honda. After I think it took me about 4 or 5 years to get there.
What's a master tech?
So that basically just means that you have achieved all of their classes that they require, and like there's nothing that comes in the shop that you can't work on. You know what I mean? So like if anything comes in the shop with an issue, they will trust you to work on it. So usually every shop has 4 to 5 master techs in it, and then you have like a shop foreman, which is like the main guy that manages the shop and all that kind of stuff. So I worked my way up to master tech, got that certification, and then from there I was just living the life, the mechanic life of working 60-80 hours a week. I'd figured out how to make decent money because it's all flat rate pay. So that means that you are paid a certain amount per hour, and every job pays a certain amount of hours. Mm-hmm. So if you have a job, like let's just say, for example, a timing belt on a Honda Odyssey would pay I think it would pay 7 hours at the time, and I could get it done in about an hour and a half. And so like you could knock it out. And those were like what they call gravy jobs. So, it's easy to do, doesn't take much time, pays a lot of hours. So you can make big money on those. So like on a Saturday, you might get 4 or 5 of those jobs in one day, and you can knock those out, and you can make, 24 to 30 hours in a day.
Yeah.
And so, you make good money. So I was making, about probably 70,000 or so, as a 22-year-old by the time I got finished up as a master tech. And, I was happy. I was making good money. Life was good. It seemed pretty simple. But I just kept watching all these older guys in my shop, and like I could tell it was like 45 was the age where they would all kind of turn into this grumpy old man that hated their life, hated their job. They had all been divorced. Like it was just like a trend. You know what I mean? It really was. Like it was both shops that I worked in. I could see that. And so I came to like a crossroads where my mom at the time still owned the shop that my grandpa owned in Cumming. And, I had an opportunity to potentially go open up my own shop there. And it was an old shop, needed like a ton of renovations. It was not something that a 22-year-old could take on and be able to afford. I was going to have to borrow a lot of money. And I knew one brand really well, and, buying the tools and technology it takes to work on that brand in an independent shop would be extremely expensive. And so I kind of brushed that idea away. I just said, owning an independent shop these days with the technology that cars have in them is just really difficult because, back 15 years ago, cars didn't have all kind of technology in them where you needed a certain special scan tool to be able to access any of the systems in the car. Nowadays, it's pretty much just like you have to have that or else you can't even work on the car. You know what I mean?
Everything's computer.
Yeah, everything's computer. Yeah. So it's really expensive to get into. So I just kind of brushed that idea off, and I could just tell that like the independent shop thing is I think it's a dying breed, which I've been pretty disconnected from the automotive industry for the past 6-7 years. But I feel like it's eventually these manufacturers are going to make it where you have to bring that car to them to be able to get it worked on, and that's what their goal is, right? Because they want to be making the money on the service and the sales. And so I brushed that idea off, and I talked to my dad, and I was like, do you think I could do the mortgage industry? And he's like, I mean, anybody can do it. He's like, it's just a matter of, he's like, you got to know it's a sales job, and you're not going to make any money if you don't make any sales. And I was like, well, I mean, my mortgage is pretty light. Like I had like a $1,100 mortgage at the time, it's super cheap. And I was like, my mortgage is pretty light, and, I'm ready to be done with this. So I was like, I'm willing to make the jump and try it, So I went and took the pre-licensing course and passed my test, and that's how I got where I am now. So
dang, man. Well, so I'm sure you're skipping a lot, in between there.
Yeah.
So like when you first got into it, I mean, you get your license and you've got like a phone sitting on the desk. Then what?
So from there, my dad, he just said, he was like, let me just try some ideas with you. And so we started trying this for sale by owner idea that he still preaches to this day.
Oh, dude, I see him all the time, bro. You need to get on the call with Paul.
Yeah, you need to get Paul on the podcast. Let him tell you about your FISBO idea.
People out there doing it, man.
Yeah, it works. I mean, he's grown a lot of people's business with it. But anyway, so I was kind of the first, I guess you could say, guinea pig with that idea. And so I remember the first couple of weeks that I was in, I got my test passed, and I was, getting all my systems set up and stuff, trying to learn. First of all, how do you even do a mortgage? You know what I mean? Like, how do you make sure someone qualifies to buy a house, and then, you let them go put a house under contract, let them put $5,000 in the seller's hands and hope that you can get the loan done, Yeah. So it was a lot of pressure as a brand new person who never had been in the business and didn't understand that part of it. And so, but the first part of it is, you got to work on the business before you can work in the business. You know what I mean? So I had to get the business in the door before I could even work on a loan. And so he had me calling for sale by owners. I remember the very first one I called, I got cussed out. The guy immediately cussed me out. He was like, why are you calling me? Yada, yada. And so that was like pretty disheartening, as a brand new guy. I was like, man, like, what the heck am I doing? Yeah. And so then we started working through like Facebook groups trying to get a lead, and I got a lead. This guy qualified to buy a house. I had a mentor at the time that helped me like look at his file and, made sure that he qualified to buy a house. So I got him to do an application. He qualified, and then he didn't have a real estate agent. And so that was like a huge opportunity for me to say, okay, I've got a free deal for somebody in the market, And so this guy was over in Calhoun, and I, looked up every agent I could in the area and tried to find the one that I felt like was doing the most transactions. So I called her up, and she's like, hello, yada, yada. And I'm like, hey, this is Jonah. I'm, brand new in the business, and I got a deal for you. And she's like, she didn't even care. She's just like, no, I'm good. Like, I have too much going on right now. And I was like, what? Like, I'm trying to give you a free paycheck, lady. So then I called the next agent, and she was like happy to have it. You know what I mean? So I guess I just caught the first lady at the wrong time, and she just didn't want to talk about it. Yeah. And then the next lady was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Like, send him over to me. I'll get him showing homes. So I got him introduced, and he started showing him houses, and got him under contract. We closed that deal, and I still remember like my first deal like it was yesterday. You know what I mean? And that we got that one closed, and that kind of started a little bit of a process. Started getting some leads from that agent, and she had 4 or 5 other agents on her team. So she noticed, we did a good job on the first time, and then she started opening up, hey, here's a lead. So that was kind of my first relationship that I started building. Still have that relationship to this day, by the way. So that was 6 years ago, and I'm still able to get transactions out of that office pretty regularly.
That's awesome. We're providing value, man.
Yeah. So you just keep providing value to people. And then, I just started trying to meet with as many realtors as I could as a brand new loan officer, and just kind of fake it till you make it. That's pretty much what it is. So
yeah. Well, it had to take some, like, were there times where, you got into it? Was it a immediate takeoff, like things just go up from there? Or were there times where you're like, I don't know if I should be doing this?
No, I mean, I went, I think I had, at the time that I quit Honda, I want to say I had about maybe $12,000 saved in the bank to pay my bills. And, I felt good that I could go a little while without a paycheck. And I literally went like 3 months without getting paid. And so it was like, I felt very nervous that I was going to end up spending all my money in savings, paying my bills, and then having to go right back to doing what I was going to do,
Yeah.
And that thought never left my mind. And I still think about that to this day, which is crazy. But I still think about what happens if my business shuts down, like, and I have to go back to doing what I do. And it doesn't scare me. I mean, I could go pick up wrenches again. I still have all the tools in my shop and everything, but like, it's not that I want to do that, but I think that thought that stays in the back of your mind kind of drives you on a daily basis to like get up and do more, And so, yeah, but that, I mean, basically it came down to the wire. I hadn't got paid for about 3 months, and finally got a paycheck, and that was one paycheck on a loan was about as big as a 2-week paycheck at Honda. You know what I mean? So I was like, whoa, like this is huge, And so that really got me fired up to like, hey, let's go get more loans. You can make a lot of money doing this, you know? And so I started going to get more loans, and, just grinding, that's all it was. It was about a 2-year period where I, really put my head down and just grinded it out. And, it was hard. I mean, there was times where I felt like I'm not going to make it, you know what I mean? Because it's a roller coaster business, it's up and down, peaks and valleys. You have times where you feel like you're doing really, really well, and then times where you feel like you're not doing so well. So it's just, one of those things. But yeah, that's pretty much how it went from day one.
That's cool, man. So it's really cool how, to me, it sounds like out of that perseverance, that's the word I think of when it comes to, putting your head down, grinding it out, 3 months without a paycheck. Well, I hope this is working, but I'm just going to keep doing this. And in that back of your mind, like realizing I wasn't supposed to be where I was, don't want to go back there, having that hunger and that drive.
Yeah.
To me, like that speaks volumes about your work ethic. And I think a lot of people can learn from that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was just a thing where it was either you make it or you don't. And I really didn't want to go back doing what I was doing because, the automotive industry is a really hard industry to get out of. Like once you are doing that and that's only thing it's really hard to get out of. And so a lot of the guys that told me that I've talked to, in the years after I got out, they're like, man, you're so lucky you got out that way, and I tell anybody that is in the same position. Like I have a friend right now that's in the automotive industry and he feels like he wants to get out. And I'm like, dude, just go find anything that you can do and try it. You know what I mean? Like get a little bit of money saved up where you don't need a paycheck for a little bit and go try something in sales. And I think you would say this too, like sales, in my opinion, is the best way to make a living. And it doesn't matter what you're selling, whatever you're selling, just sell it. And you got to believe in your product. You got to believe in what you're selling. But I feel like sales is the best way to make a living, and your income is not capped. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like you don't have to worry about someone else keeping a thumb on you all the time of like, hey, where are you at? What time are you going to be here tomorrow? Whatever. You've got to have your own drive. If you don't have that drive, you got to find that drive. But if you can find your own drive and you are tired of feeling like you're stuck and letting somebody else control your life, there's so many opportunities out there that you don't have to let someone else control your life, And I think anybody can find an opportunity, whether it's, in real estate, in mortgage, in insurance, medical sales, tech sales. I mean, there's so many different types of sales that you can get in that can really open up freedom for anybody, I think. So,
right. So how would you encourage that person on the fence? Because for me, I've thought about that, before I got into doing what I was, what I'm doing now. Never would have told you, that it would work out the way it did. And I keep that same chip on my shoulder, like, oh, this is going to be gone tomorrow.
Yep.
And I got to make sure it doesn't.
Yeah.
And that turns into a whole repentance back to Christ and a whole other rabbit hole around like what my actual values should be.
Yeah.
But it's, when you're in that like feast or famine type of environment, you have to, you're a hunter every day. So like for me though, I can't imagine a different life. And so, through that, we've both in our own ways been able to create lives where like we're here recording a podcast in the middle of the day. We don't have Mr. Boss Man, thumb down. Hey, where's this? Get it to me. And there's so many people that are capable of, if that's not for them and they don't, nothing against, 9-to-5 stuff. Like it's, there's a time and a place for that and there's people for that. I'm just not one of those people.
Yeah.
So I don't want to like speak on anything I don't know much about.
Yeah.
What I will say though, there's a lot of people who don't like that and they want to do what you're saying, get out and try it. How do you encourage that person to make that final push?
I would say, first of all, figure out what you're passionate about. Figure out for me, like I bought my first home before I got into the mortgage industry. And so I got to see like what owning a home was like and, how much it did for me, and, it was pretty freeing, you know what I mean? Like when you get to own your first home and, you finally get out from under your parents' wing and that kind of stuff. It was pretty awesome. And so I knew that was a passion that I enjoyed. And I think anybody could be passionate about that, right? Like it's a huge goal for a lot of people to be able to own a home,
right.
But find what you're passionate about and then find a mentor or somebody that does that, and then, ask them to take you under their wing and help you find your way out of whatever you're doing, and there's always somebody that's going to be willing to help you or talk to you or whatever it is. So just find that mentor, and then you really just have to take the leap of faith. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is just understand. I know this is a totally different economy than what I was in 2017 or 16. Whenever I made this jump, like, we're in a totally different economy. Things are a lot more expensive. A lot more people living paycheck to paycheck. But, if you can save up a little bit of money, scrounge up a little bit of money, enough to cover your bills for 2 months, and, figure out what it is you need to do to get into that you're passionate about, and just take the leap of faith. If you feel like you're passionate about it, you're going to do well with it. You just have to work at it. It's not, nothing comes overnight. Nothing happens overnight. You have to, find the process. You have to go through the process, and you have to work it, and work through that to be able to get to that point where you can finally start making money doing whatever you're passionate about. But I mean, these days, even since you and I started in business, there's so many more ways to make money than when me and you got into it. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I mean, you can go be a content creator these days and make more money than me or you do. You know what I mean?
Dude,
and
yeah.
and it's not hard to do. You know what I mean? Like, if you're passionate about it and you can stay on top of it, you can do it. So I mean, that may be going away if they ban TikTok in the United States, but
you're one of the don't ban TikTok guys.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
you're in the TikTok chair.
I like TikTok. I enjoy it. I get a lot of joy out of TikTok.
Yeah, man. Hey, I think everyone does.
Yeah, it's a fun app, but also, I mean, I actually hate it for. Let's not get off on this tangent too bad, but I hate it for a lot of people, because a lot of people have made a living on that, and like they rely on that for their living. So, but anyway, I would just say, take the leap of faith. Don't be scared. I know it sounds scary to go change careers and do something different, but if you're not happy, that's the biggest thing in life, is you got to find something that makes you happy, and that's not easy to do always. There's a lot of things in the corporate world that don't make anybody happy.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
One thing that resonated when you're talking about that is, like, I was wondering, what are you going to say to that? How would you encourage someone? And, it's, pick up your bootstraps and do it. It's like, no, your first response was to lean on somebody.
Yeah.
And I resonate with that a lot, because, I'm doing what I'm doing because of other people, and just calling and saying, hey, what the heck do I do?
Yeah.
Speak into my life.
Yeah, exactly.
That is such a powerful thing, because number one, it humbles you, because you have to, like, I don't have it all together. I'm not the one with the answers.
Yeah, and you got to call, and you got to admit that you're wrong. Like, let me just tell you this story real quick. So this is my first couple weeks in the business, right? Get this lead from this agent, and this was a new agent. He's a big producer. I'm not going to say his name on here, but big producer, and I was excited about it, And so he has this client he's going to show a house to, and he was wanting to know if we could do a mobile home with USDA loans. And actually, this year you can do that, but back then you couldn't. That rule had not went into place yet, so you couldn't do USDA with mobile homes. But I didn't know that. It was brand new, so I said, "Yeah, man, we can do that, no problem." I knew we could do mobile home loans, but I just didn't know we could not do USDA loans with mobile homes.
Right.
So he goes and shows the guy the house, and I called my mentor, who was a lady that had been working with my dad for 25 years, and she was like a second mom to me. She was my next door neighbor growing up. So I called her and said, hey, do you think we can do this? This guy's showing this lady a house. And she said, oh, no, we can't do that. And I was like, oh, God. Like, I just screwed up bad. So I had to call the agent, and I had to say, hey, man, I know you just drove over there and wasted your gas and your time showing this guy a house, but we can't do that. I'm sorry. And this guy absolutely lost his mind. Like, he let me have it, and he said, I need to talk to your manager. So I gave him my dad's number. I was like, here's my manager. Yeah. And so he calls my dad, and he told my dad, and he didn't know that we were, father and son. And he's like, you need to fire him right now. He's awful. Like, he's the worst. You do not need him in your office, yada, yada. So my dad was like, look, man, you need money for your gas. You need gas money, whatever it is. I'm not going to fire the guy because he messed up. He's like, let us talk to the client. We can try to figure out another way to get him into the house. But, USDA loan's not going to be doable. But anyways, just ever since then, that was like an immediate, the thing that happened to me that was like almost would have just made you want to quit right there. You know what I mean? Because like you had to call and tell this guy you were wrong. this guy's going to go spread the word around that this guy's an idiot, he doesn't know what he's doing, you know? And so it was hard for me to deal with that, but that was a good learning experience. And it was a great experience for me just to thicken my skin a little bit, you know what I mean? Because, okay, yeah, I messed up, but hey, dude, sorry, like, that's your job too to go show the houses. So, like, I'm sorry that I messed up, but you're still doing your job. And, like, let's just get over it. Let's find a way to mesh in the middle and find a solution for the client, you know?
Right.
And so me and that guy never worked together again. Still have never worked together to this day, and that's fine. But, you know, it was one of those things that really helped me understand that, like, I want to work with people that I like, number one, and don't act like crazy people when something goes wrong, you know? Right. And because there's a lot of people like that. There's a lot of high-strung people in every type of sales role, but especially in the real estate industry, it seems like. But, yeah, that was a big learning experience for me. So just to kind of going back to talking about taking that leap of faith, having a mentor, regardless of you being right or wrong, it's good to have somebody that can help you hold your hand. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. Yeah. Well, and you really only get, you know, two heads are better than one. You really only get where you're going by helping others first, I think. If you really want to have joy in what you do, and if you have people around you that are of that same mindset, and it's not a question, you know, I don't ever ask someone, hey, do you believe this is your value system? No, like it comes out in their actions, and it comes out in experience, and it comes out in working with people for that. So also a note on that, we were talking earlier about just the priorities of people, right? Like you've got people that I'm in it for me, and it's about my growth and my this, that. And then you've got another set of people that are not that way. So digging a little bit on your perspective, I just want to pick your brain about like our world today. You know, this is kind of big picture too. It can go, you know, big picture with it.
Yeah.
But our world today, there's a value system that almost like doesn't add up, right? We're the, you know, most expensive society. We spend the most money. We consume some of the most, you know, in the whole entire world, you know, and everything is just fixated around like this idea of consumerism, and I need to elevate myself, elevate my platform, you know, but, you know, there's almost like a counterculture that I'm seeing, you know, come out of that, which has been around for a long time, but it's really just it's continuing to grow the more that negative pressure goes. But like, you know, when you say, you brought up earlier, like you versus the world, like my priorities are going to be, how do you set yourself up as different and really beat against a different drum rather than where our society is headed, and just the, you know, I don't even know what you would call it, the me movement. Is that what people call it? Like, speak to that a little bit, like what your perspective is on that.
So like for me, like I think you're referring to like how much people put in, like everybody's life is based on their social media these days, pretty much. Like it's all, whatever you show on your social media is like, that's your life, you know? And I can't do that. Like it drives me mentally insane to like try to put my entire life on social media. And my wife, like she doesn't put anything on social media. Like you wouldn't even know she existed if all you relied on was Facebook or Instagram or whatever, you know? And, you know, I honestly wish I could be that way, but I can't completely, just for business. Like I have to say somewhat relevant, you know?
Yeah, we're in the same boat.
But I really would like to be able to like take more of a step back on that. But I think I will once my business is more at the point to where, you know, I don't have to rely on people calling me to get loans. I can rely on the people I did loans for to call me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that'll come, you know, 10 years down the road or whatever. But as far as like the me society, like it's hard in this business to not want to partake in that me society, because you need that. You feel like you need that, you know, to stay relevant in the world and that kind of stuff. And like sometimes it's hard. Like I hate to even get on there and scroll because you see other people doing things and you're like, oh, like why am I not doing that?
Dude,
you know,
100%.
Yeah, and it's like
as much as you try to control it,
it's so hard. And
yeah.
So, but I think for me, like it just comes back to like spending time in the outdoors gets me away from a lot of that, you know, because I go to a lot of places where I don't have a lick of cell phone service, or I don't have, you know, the ability to surf Facebook or whatever it is. And so, you know, taking those, and it's probably pretty selfish of me, I guess, to like want to take that time and go, sit out in the woods and just sit there and wait for something to come by, but that time in nature, like when I go to the mountains or when I go anywhere in the woods and just sit down and let the woods be quiet and like I'm not doing anything, I'm just listening and watching and waiting, that's when I feel like most at peace with myself, and like I feel so much more connected to everything around me than I do when I'm sitting at home surfing TikTok or, whatever it is, and so that time for me is kind of where I keep myself grounded is like, and you can ask my wife, like I say at least once a week, I got to go do something out in the woods or like, something outside, I can't be cooped up in the house working or doing anything with really just like, I hate sitting around watching TV shows. I hate sitting around watching movies. Like I'll do it every once in a while, but at least once a week, I've got to go spend like 4 or 5 hours doing something outside where I can like disconnect from the world, and that's what keeps me sane. And I honestly don't know how people live a life where they never get that opportunity. Like I feel so bad for people that never get to sit down and experience the serenity of nature, and like whether it be through hiking or hunting or fishing, whatever it is, like go outside. I feel like God created the sun, the trees, everything to heal us, and like to give you that energy that you need, because he knew that this is what our world was going to look like. It was going to revolve around a little digital phone that everybody has to look at every day, and so I encourage anybody, and I feel like I'm talking in circles right now, but I encourage anybody to go take some time, just disconnect from your phone, turn it off, and go sit in the woods and just watch the woods, and do whatever you want to do with that, whether it be hiking, hunting, whatever, fishing. There's a million things you can do outside, but just go let nature be in your head and not anything else. Like that's what keeps me sane. So
was hunting always that escape for you, or did that come later in life?
Well, actually, so like it was big for me when I was a kid. So I got to go a lot when I was a kid. My dad would take me, lots and lots of great memories with my dad growing up, going hunting. And then when I moved into like my career in the automotive world, I never had time to go. And so like it kind of left as like a weekend every once in a while type thing, like maybe 2 or 3 times a year I would go hunting. And it was not like super important because I was spending so much time at work and so much time like inside of a shop that I never had time to like get out and go do my own thing because they just needed you there so many hours. And so it really came back to me once I got into the mortgage business and like really became something that was really important because we deal with, me and you both, we deal with a lot of stressful days where something goes wrong and you got everybody yelling at you from every direction, you know what I mean? And so, you have all this like stress and anxiety built up inside of you and you need some type of release for that. And so for me, it was always just, escaping the world and going to sit somewhere in the woods, whether it's in my backyard or, driving an hour to go sit and look at leaves for an hour, like right. It's either way, I'm happy, and, like one thing that I really enjoy about hunting in general is like, if I go somewhere that's a new place, right? Like I've never been there before. It's like a whole mind game of when you step foot in the woods, it's you versus him, and you're trying to figure out how to beat him at his game, being the buck, right? And
yeah, I was like, I hope this makes it in the shot.
Yeah. But you're trying to figure out how to beat them at their game, and their game is they know those woods better than anything else out there. They live there every day. That's where they eat, breathe, sleep, everything. And you are stepping in there as a brand new, never been there. And so you're trying to like figure out the puzzle, put the pieces of the puzzle together without screwing it up. And so like for me, that's something that's like such a good escape for me is I can go step in the woods and from, daylight until whatever time I want to be done, I'm out there and that's all I'm thinking about is how to beat him at his game. And so like that's a huge escape for me, just as far as like, if there's something that's driving me crazy or something that's stressing me out, like I completely forget about it when I'm out there.
Right.
And like, I don't even think about it, and it's like, it doesn't even exist. And it usually doesn't exist until a couple days later, after if I had some kind of cool hunt, that's all I think about, for the next couple days. It's like, oh man, like this happened while I was out there. It's crazy. And, it's just, that's been for me. I'm so thankful for the ability to go, that God gave us the ability to chase animals or, anything that you want to go chase, but like gave us the ability he gave us dominion over those creatures to go chase them and try to beat them at their own game.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thankful for you for getting me into public land hunting. I was like a super inexperienced hunter. I still am. I'll always be, I feel like. But
nah, dude, we're getting you there. I feel like we've been on the struggle bus with turkeys though. It's been 4 years now.
I'll get them talking now, but like they're just gonna talk from a distance, and that's
I don't know how much I'll get to turkey hunt this year because I got the baby. The baby's gonna be here at the beginning of April, so it's gonna be really hard. That's gonna be like right at the beginning of turkey season, so I might get to go a few times, but I want to make sure that Macy's comfortable and she's not feeling like she's having to like take on the whole burden of a newborn by herself. So
you're a good man.
Yeah.
That'll bode you well, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, you got me into public land hunting, and that was something I definitely wanted to cover because, man, it's such a cool thing. So
it is,
I got into hunting, and I was like, all I knew was like, you get the lease, you go down, kill a couple deer a year, build your food plot up, just kind
dump some corn out,
whatever, farm your deer, and you're good. And man, it's really tempting to go back to that with the past few years I've had, but that's a whole other story. But public land hunting, for me, you introduced me to it, and man, like there are so many things that I've learned just about myself, about, I feel confident anywhere I go in the woods now, how to read a topographic map, how to know where things are likely to happen, so many things, just a wealth of things. And also
just woodsmanship,
pushing your boundaries. Like I remember getting lost in college, like somewhere I should not have gotten lost. Like, dude, for hours I was lost and like ended up a quarter mile away, and like,
it's probably before you had Onyx on your phone.
Yeah.
Though, right?
Dude, I was like,
Onyx
it got dark on
there.
me. I was out there trying to kill hogs. Like, who knows if they were even there. Like I saw some prints like a year ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, dude, I'm going to go in and get it.
Yeah,
This is before we ever met.
There. Yeah.
And yeah, man, it just turned into, though, this, a passion of mine. And for you, I've gotten to see Georgia Public Project grow. And a lot of others are impacted by that. Like, you've got a whole generation of people, our age, older and younger. I see all kind of people that you guys hunt with.
Yep.
Tell me about that. Like your passions must have brought this out, or is it just something that you know?
So like, what kind of got me into public land hunting in general was just, I never really, we went a few times when I was, a kid to go hunt on some public land and stuff. And I never really like took in those experiences, it was always just like, oh, there's 100,000 people out here. Like, this is cool, I guess. But, it was always that kind of experience. I don't think I ever killed a deer on public land, when I was a kid or anything like that. But we had some private property that we were hunting, and hunting started getting, like, when I started getting into it was really heavily. It was like right around the time that I was leaving my old job and getting into this job. And so I had this piece of property that had like a couple really nice bucks on it, and that was all I wanted to hunt, and there was other people that were hunting around that property and like other private landowners, and I was getting like real defensive about, these are my deer, and like it was, you wanted to sit there and say like, oh, that guy killed that was my deer, and like you get defensive over them. And I feel like everybody does that on leases and that kind of stuff. Like every time I talk to somebody about their deer on private land, they act like it's their deer, that they have pictures of or whatever. Like, even though it's midnight when they're getting a picture of that buck, that deer's nowhere near their property during the day. But anyways, people act like it's their deer.
10 other hunters down the road, like, there's my deer.
Yeah, dude, yeah. And so it started getting that way for me, and it started kind of taking the fun out of it. Like I was so entranced at like trying to kill this one buck, and like I was so like just caught up in it, and I was like, man, this is just not even really that fun anymore. Like it just doesn't seem like what I want to do. And so me and a buddy from a while back, we were like, let's go hunt Dawson Forest. And so, and you can see there's a sign on it behind your head. So we were like, let's go hunt Dawson Forest. And I was like, I've never hunted there, but we can go try it, So the first time we ever went there, we go to this, we picked out a spot on the map, and we didn't even have Onyx. We just picked out a spot. Like we pulled up the map of the WMA on the computer, and we picked out a spot. And we were like, we'll go here and we'll go just walk in and see what we can find. It was like an afternoon, early season. It was hot, and we went in there, and we had our climbing stands and stuff. We walked in. He set up, and then I went down a little bit farther and set up. Well, it got like right to dark, and I heard his bow shoot. I was like, man, he just shot one. And so like he goes over there, and I went over there. I got down, went over to where he was at, and he's like, yeah, I shot a doe. And he's like, I don't know if I killed it or not. He's like, I know I hit it, but I don't know if I killed it. So we go off and start tracking that thing. And the thing ran all the way down to the river and like was in the river. And he had to strip down to his boxers in the dark and go get this thing out of the river like it was still alive. He had to shoot it again while it was in the river. It was crazy. It was like one of the most memorable experiences I've ever had to this day. But just from that point forward, I was like, dude, this is awesome. Like we have this land that the state owns that we can go hunt whenever we want. And there's like thousands of acres out here. There's all kinds of new places you can go explore. So I just started kind of messing around with it, and started going to hunt it more and like hunting new places, trying all these different WMAs and stuff. And I just kind of fell in love with it. And it was just so fun because I got to meet all kinds of new people. Like I was all the time running into somebody else that we would sit and talk for 15, 20 minutes about deer hunting, and that was really cool. Like got to meet all kind of people. And I got to go explore new places almost every time, and that for me, that's like a huge thing is I just love going to check out a new place and seeing what's there, because like there's so many places that are unique, that don't exist in other places. Like just little things like there might be an old homestead somewhere that you can find that there's like, an old chimney or something out in the middle of the woods that you never knew would have existed, And so like I love going to find places like that and just like checking out new areas. You never know when there might be a giant buck living in a spot that you didn't even know existed. You find all this big sign and gets you all excited. You find these big rubs and scrapes and stuff, and you just get all fired up. And it's just always that mystery that keeps you going, for me at least. And just having that mystery in the back of your head that like, I'm going to sit here, never sat here before. I'm going to get up in a tree. I'm going to wait for dark, and like, who knows what can come out. And then all of a sudden you have this really nice buck come out, and you're like, whoa, like I just came here and that happened. And it seems like there's never ending places to find, you know what I mean? Like
right.
Every year I feel like I find new places that I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Like I found a really neat place over here that I saw deer in, And again, for me, it's really just that escape from life sometimes that, hey, I'm stressed out with work. Let me go do this for a few hours and I'll probably totally forget about everything,
Right.
So that's pretty much what it is for me. So that's kind of how my passion started for public land hunting. And then as far as the Georgia Public Project thing, I enjoyed, like I wanted to be able to document it so I could go back and watch what happened, And like I made a video of one of the bucks that I shot back in the early days of GPP. And like I really enjoyed putting it together. It was really cool to like be able to go back and rewatch what happened, And even to this day, like I love going back and watching old videos just because it brings back those memories of like that hunt that the small details that you might have forgot about, And so I just started making videos and met Andrew. At the time, I had done a giveaway. I was trying to grow it as a channel, and I'd done a giveaway and he won the giveaway. And me and him went and hunted together, and me and him just kind of hit it off really good as like we work together well. He hunts the same way I do, so it was a good back-to-back relationship there. And so me and him, I grew GPP a little bit on my own over a few years span. It like wasn't going anywhere because I didn't have the time to devote to it and like didn't take it that seriously. And then me and him started talking about like kind of partnering on it, and I was like, look, like if you come in and you can help me make videos, you can make your own videos, I'll make my own videos, and like we'll have twice the amount of content put on the channel, and it'll help it grow. And we grew 200% just in the last year.
Wow.
So
that's
yeah.
Awesome.
And so like just seeing what that does, like having somebody else to help you work on it and help you grow it really helps with growing something like a YouTube channel. And it's not big by any means. We're at like almost 3,000 subscribers. So like nothing great, but eventually I think
everyone starts. Though.
Yeah, dude. And like, I think getting over that 1,000 subscriber like hump is like a really big deal. And so, we got over that hump and now we're almost at 3,000. So like, I just feel like we're going to keep growing. And we've just really enjoyed like working together and like putting the videos together, making the memories and that kind of stuff, and just thinking of different ideas to do and that kind of stuff. It's always just a really fun thing. So I would say GPP is just a passion baby, right? Like it came from me having a passion about something, and then I wanted to try the filming it part,
right,
and like documenting it, and that's really fun to do. It's hard to do sometimes. Like I've cost myself a lot of really great hunts because I'm trying to film it, and I've cost myself a lot of like extra grief, I guess, trying to deal with filming a hunt because there's a lot of extra stuff to bring out in the woods, and it kind of sometimes takes the fun out of it. But if you go back to the basics of like what it does for you after you have the production created, it's really awesome. And like, I don't think I'll ever stop doing it. So
heck yeah, man.
Yeah,
I
cool.
love that. It is cool to have. I go back all the time and watch ones,
Yeah.
that I've either been in or ones that I, like the
I still go back all the time and watch that video of you falling in that swamp.
Dude, that was a rough morning,
yeah, it was
man.
cold that morning.
Didn't even know you were recording, dude. I just sloshed it straight down to like, well, I think I got locked up at my knees, and then I fell forward, and it was like, it wasn't like that cold. It was just so wet.
Yeah.
It was 30s, but
it
was
was
like
cold. Yeah,
dude.
it was spring.
We walked like 3 miles that day.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it was rough. And I remember your feet got wet because you fell in that swamp or whatever.
Yeah, dude. But
That's
hey,
a good time.
It's
that's a memory that I'll never
hard
forget.
times make hard men, bro.
That's right.
I'm not looking for easy times over
That's
here.
right.
But no, man, it's really cool just to see that grow and everything you're doing with it. Especially, as everything starts to change with society and like we keep saying, these devices and all of that jazz. Like great things to have. Don't want to sit here and harp on technology.
Yeah,
I mean, we've got great technology.
It's made our lives a lot easier.
Yeah, it's making all this possible. But it's also just as important to innovate your life in a way that provides, that outlet, finding that source. Nature's a huge one.
Oh, yeah.
It should be a necessary thing for a lot of people.
It is a necessary thing for a lot of people. They just don't know it.
It's biological. Who's a Huberman that's, his whole teachings are like, in the morning, expose your eyes to real sunlight. Like your circadian rhythm, starts with that. It's like, that's natural.
Yeah.
Like we're supposed to be out.
Yeah.
So, just getting out in even a little regard, really helps.
Yeah, and you can feel the connection to. You good?
Yeah, I thought I had this on lock, but it kept on. Sorry. Feel the connection.
Yeah, I mean, I think any human, if they go outside and spend a little time in the sun, I attribute that to knock on wood, I never get sick. And I attribute the amount of time that I spend in the outdoors to that. I spend so much time outside breathing fresh air, and any chance I get, I can be sitting here in my office sometimes, I'm like, I just need to go outside. And I'll go outside and walk around or take a ride on the Kubota, whatever it is. I do that all the time just because I need that fresh air, you feel cooped up. And, I think that's the reason that you have so many crazy people living in cities, because they don't get that connection with nature like you do when you live, farther away from the city. And I think it definitely is a necessary thing for anybody.
Yeah.
Well, no matter what you do, I don't care if you like to, go sit on a beach. I don't care if you like to go sit in the woods. Whatever you like to do, just go get some sunlight and some real fresh air. I think it's important.
Man, that's definitely great advice that we should all take. I know for me, it definitely holds true because I'm the same way, man. Do it in your own way. That's for sure. So, yeah, man. Well, I wanted to close with kind of a theme that I've really always seen in your life, and we've talked about it already a lot. And it's really something that I just kind of wanted to put out there is if there's anything that people hear from this show, it's this. It's the idea of your passions. So many people, including myself, sometimes we just get so caught up in what it is that we do for work, and whether or not that's life-giving or what you do. Everyone has different professions. There's times my job's really great. There's times where it really sucks, but if I make that the only thing that I do, and that's my only identity or whatever, how would you encourage somebody who feels like they can't do that? So many people feel locked into, I have to to do this, and I'll never be able to break the mold. I'll never be able to have true joy, in my day to day because I've got to do this. Like, I would say or argue that, maybe that's a choice. Maybe there's, what's the one thing that you could encourage somebody to do that maybe wants some of that, bit of a life change, because you've built a whole life out of, through perseverance, through tough things. As you look at your life, what's something that you think, the one theme that you've been able to bring yourself back to get to a place where, yes, you get stressed out about work sometimes, we all do, but you also get to sit down, have the conversation with your wife, take extra time to do this, go out in the woods, start personal projects. What's your anchor point when it comes to like how you'd encourage somebody to find that for themselves?
Yeah, so I would say it's probably, again, going back to like nature, and having some type of connection with nature. But I would say relating it more back to like a connection with God through nature, And so like a lot of people, their walk with God looks different, right? Like they may, like this podcast may be something that you're doing as, an obedience to your walk with God. And I feel like my center point and like because I think everybody has passions and everybody has real passions in life. You know what I mean? Like what are things, because most people's real passions, you can't make money with them unless you figure out how to monetize it, and then it may not be a passion anymore, And so I think it's figuring out like what your passion is versus what your real passion is, and then making time and room for both of those. And, letting God kind of help you figure out how to do that, right? Because, I mean, there's everything that my life has led up to from now, whether it be from, being in the automotive world to in the mortgage business to Georgia Public Project, everything has happened for a reason. The timeline is what it is because God wanted it that way, And, you just have to let God lead you through life without trying to do things your own way. You know what I mean? Like I feel like everybody has a path that they're going to take no matter what. And that's the path that God has planned for you. Mm-hmm. But don't fight that path. You know what I mean? Like just let that path kind of be the way it is. But also try to what am I trying to say? Try to intake your passions, throughout that journey. Like, so for me, it was always like, I mean, cars were a passion of mine, right? And, I thought that's what I wanted to do for a living, but at the end of the day, that's not what I ended up making my life out of, like making my living and making my career out of was not cars, but it led me to a point to where I was able to make my career with, something different, but the passion led me there, you know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? And so I think that's what you're asking. Is that what you're asking? I'm not,
yeah,
I feel like I'm talking
100%. You're bringing out all of the things that I think people need to hear when it comes to that. Like, yeah. Because sometimes they feel like they have to have all the answers, but it's like letting your passions lead you.
Yeah, you don't have to have all the answers. Like, you won't have all the answers. You know what I mean? And just like live your life, do what makes you happy, keep yourself happy. And if things change throughout that path where you feel like you're not happy, then listen to God and say, hey, this is what you need to do. Go try this. You know what I mean? Make that leap of faith. Even though it may feel uncomfortable, even though it may feel like, hey, this is probably the last thing I need to be doing. Like I can't afford to not have income for 3 months. But make the leap of faith and let God lead your footsteps as far as where you need to end up.
100%, man.
Yeah.
The verse I think of is where he's talking about, think about the birds in the air. They don't reap or sow.
Yep.
But still your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more important than they?
Exactly. Yep.
I can't tell you how many nights I've laid in bed and just, had to read that verse over and over. It's given me so much life because I do worry. And so many people do worry. But it's like when you do realize, it's okay. You're going to be taken care of. Mm-hmm. Take the steps you feel like you need to take, but take them. Yeah. Don't be afraid to take them.
Yeah, don't be afraid to take them. Yeah.
And the things you're passionate about it for a reason.
Exactly. Yeah. God put that passion in your heart for a reason, and it's not just like it didn't just happen. Like, I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've met that have never even went hunting. You know what I mean? And I'm like, how have you never got to experience that? You know? Yeah. And it's like that. People don't understand it until they try it, right? Like, somebody doesn't get buck fever, and if they never get to experience what that feels like, of you put in all this time and effort into getting that buck in front of you, and you get it in front of you, and your body can't stop shaking because your adrenaline dump is so heavy, and then you miss the shot, and it's all over from that, and like nobody gets to experience that until it happens to them.
Yeah.
And when I talk to people that haven't experienced that, and they have no passion for doing anything outdoors or anything with hunting or fishing or whatever, it's just like mind-boggling to me. But they might have a different passion, that gets them feeling that same way. But I feel like everybody needs something. Our world is kind of like moved into this like technological era, and everything is very device driven, technology driven, that kind of thing. But like everybody needs something that takes them back to the basics. Whether it's like, I don't know, some people might be into video games. They want to go play what is that? The ball thing, like the old mechanical type video games,
Oh yeah, like the
pinball, yeah, like a pinball machine,
I
thought people might be able to relate that, from like video gaming, because I know people are into that kind of stuff. But like for me, just going back to like what our ancestors went through and like what they dealt with, and like kind of living that life for a minute, maybe it's just for a minute. You live that life that they lived, and you feel what it meant to like hunt for your food or fish for your food or whatever it is, it's like life altering for me.
Yeah. So that's cool, man. Well, thanks for sharing your passions with me and with everybody listening.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Where can people find Local Lender, and where can they find Georgia Public Project?
So I've got an Instagram page for Local Lender. It stays decently active. You can message me on there, or you can call me. My number is 678-313-3838. Or if you want to reach out to Georgia Public Project, you can just look us up on YouTube, Georgia Public Project, or on Instagram as Georgia Public Project. So check that out. That's our passion. And as far as, any other advice I have for people? Is that what you asked me? What kind of advice?
Yeah, like give us a closing thought.
I think it's just like very simple of chase your dreams, but don't let chasing your dreams take away your passions. I think you can say that, right? Because a lot of times people chase their dreams, but their dreams might be money, or having a certain amount of followers, Right. But don't let that take away your passion for something. Don't let it ruin the fun.
Right.
I guess is what I would say.
Don't ruin the fun.
Don't ruin the fun.
I like that, man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Jonah.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.